So it's Wednesday, November 5th, 2025, and there's some nuclear saber rattling that's been going on. And I want to explain the context because otherwise you might be worried about it. But I don't think we need to be at this point. Let me try to explain what's happened. So the United States tested a Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile. It's without a warhead, but it's capable of carrying a nuclear one. Now, this is very similar to what the Russians did with the Berezhnik missile just a little while ago, or their Poseidon test, that sort of thing. And it's not nuclear. It's testing the capability of the launch system, not the nuclear test itself. The test launch was carried out from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The missile traveled about 4,200 miles and reached its target. The test design, designated GT-254, evaluated the ongoing reliability, operational readiness, accuracy of the ICBM system, a cornerstone of America's national defense, the statement said. Okay, so, but it wasn't anything really dramatic. It's just doing what the Russians did, and the Russians are flipping out. So Gerasimov, he's kind of the army chief, Gerasimov, getting ahead of possible U.S. nuclear tests, was saying things like, if we don't take action now, time will be lost for timely response to the actions of the USA. And here he is talking to Putin. The USA is aiming to prepare and conduct nuclear tests, said the chief of the general staff of the Russian armed forces. Here's Greg Terry. He voiced over the meeting, and just listen to what's being said here.
Commander, the very fact that the American side is not providing official explanations and information about President Trump's statements on resuming nuclear testing gives us no alternatives or reasons to believe the United States will not soon begin preparing for and conducting full nuclear tests.
Now, the U.S. is just doing what the Russians were just doing, and there could have even tricked Trump into doing more so that they could do more. Like if President Trump actually did a full-on nuclear test, that would be all bets off. The Russians could do full-on nuclear tests and say, well, they're doing it, and this is kind of what they're saying. So I don't know if they're alarmed or if it's all theater. I'm just not sure. But here's what he's saying.
The American side may continue avoiding official explanations, but that changes nothing. If we do not take appropriate measures now, we will lose valuable time and opportunity to respond promptly to the United States' actions. As preparing for nuclear tests requires anywhere from several months to several years, depending on the type. We are aware of statements from several high-ranking U.S. officials about resuming nuclear tests in America, and an analysis of these statements indicate Washington's clear intention to prepare and conduct.
Okay, it's all a dog and pony show. I mean, that's all this is. I mean, if you just look at what Putin sitting there looking like he's actually listening to this, it's all. Let me go back just a touch.
Nuclear tests in America, and an analysis of these statements indicate Washington's.
Yeah, Putin's listening. It's all being recorded. It's all out. Yeah, so nothing will really happen of this. The Russians test, the Americans test, but Medvedev is saying no one knows what Trump meant about nuclear testing. He probably doesn't himself, but he's the president of the United States, and the consequences of such words are inescapable. Russia will be forced to assess the expediency of conducting full-fledged nuclear tests itself. No, they're not forced to that. They don't have to do that. Nobody's done that. Neither side is going to probably do that. So that's just where we are right now. They're communicating without talking to each other. They're just talking to the public, which they're picking up from each other's statements. Okay. Now, meanwhile, other stories. It looks like Putin has just lost a friend. That is in Alexander Vučić of Serbia. Okay, Zelensky spoke with the president of Serbia and both publicly hinted at the new opportunities for cooperation. After all, the Serbians have lots of ammunition and nowhere to go with it. There are things where we can help each other. We also discussed opportunities for cooperation and regional security. Our countries are equally interested in this, and we will work on it. Vucic said, we agreed that there is room for mutual support, and we will continue working on it together. Vucic admitted that Serbian ammunition may be reaching Ukraine through third countries. Serbia is now offering Europe to buy out its weapon stockpiles. Yeah, and he sees money to be made, and the Ukrainians need it. It's a good thing. Now, I'm trying to think. It was either Peskov. I think it was Peskov that was saying, like, we're not really happy about Serbia selling this to to kill Russians, but that's ultimately what will happen with it. Okay. Meanwhile, a signal to Russia. Rheinmetall builds ammunition plant in Lithuania. Europe's largest defense contractor has laid the foundation stone for a plant in Lithuania. 155 millimeter artillery shells, NATO's main caliber, launched in mid-2026. The first phase includes production of 35,000 shells, ramping up to as many as 100,000 per year by 2027. This is the biggest defense investment in Lithuania's history. Rheinmetall's CEO called it the project an important signal for Russia. So that's good that they're actually getting their act together and recognizing what is going on where Russia's not backing down. If you go back and just watch this morning, I showed you how like they're training kids to be drone pilots in high school. They're not joking about this. Okay, there were also unidentified drones shutting down a Brussels airport on 4 November, forcing 16 flight cancellations. It keeps coming. At some point, we're going to make a mistake somewhere and things could go very, very badly. Okay, this is not Europe, and I'm going to talk about this, and then we'll pivot back to the United States in just a moment. This is in Africa. Yesterday in Sudan, rebels shot down an Il-76 transport aircraft crewed by Russians working under contract. It was not a military, like a Russian military aircraft. It's a contract. Preliminary reports suggest all on board were killed. Interestingly, the aircraft was down using a Chinese FK-2000 surface-to-air missile system. So the terrible war in Sudan, I really haven't talked about it, but this much. The terrible war in Sudan is going on, and it's not Russian forces, but Russian contractors apparently being shot down. According to Russian mill blogger Fighter Bomber, who has a wide network within the Russian Air Force, this Il-76 was shot down by Rapid Support Forces. There's like a government name side and the Rapid Support Forces, and they're fighting each other. And it had been purchased in Kyrgyzstan a month and a half ago for $12 million. It's not a Russian military plane, but one that has been sold. So, and like, if you want to know where the big money's to be made, Kyrgyzstan seems to be the place. I mean, I see all kinds, like if you look at what happened since 2022 and the amount of business done with that one nation from all over the world, it's like the place that you go to sell stuff to Russia and so on and so forth. Okay. Let's turn our attention to the United States. U.S. senators lash out after quiet decisions to pause military aid to Kyiv and pull a U.S. brigade back from Romania. Okay, so what happened here, that pullback is not recent. That's a little while back. We remember that. So this guy, his name is Austin Dahmer, President Donald Trump's nominee for the Pentagon's top strategy post. He broke with administration's usual script on Tuesday, conceding under oath that officials have long avoided, that Russia poses a security threat to the United States. He admitted that. Okay, fine. So he came under a lot of scrutiny. Senators were just berating, and it wasn't about this guy, particularly Dahmer. It's not about him, but the Senate is very frustrated with things that have been happening, like quietly pausing aid to Ukraine some time ago, or just last week or the week before, a U.S. brigade from Romania, it was announced, will be being removed from NATO's eastern flank. So the senators were just venting at him about this. They're not happy. For over 2 hours, members of the Senate committee from both parties unloaded on what they described as a chaotic, uncommunicative Pentagon policy operation led by Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, Elbridge Colby. Remember him? He's the guy with the, focus on China kind of view. And he even published a book about that, which I read, which was actually a pretty good book, believe it or not. I'm not advocating, sales of his book, but I learned quite a bit from it. One-time strategist turned lightning rod. Man, I can't even get a response, fumed a Republican Senator Dan Sullivan from Alaska, adding, and we're on your team. Sullivan, who has built a reputation as a defense hawk closely aligned with Trump on deterring China and supporting allies, said Colby's shop has become the hardest to reach in the entire administration. So they're fuming at this guy who's Austin Dahmer, who's in the hot seat, but you can see that there's signs of greater problems beneath that. Okay, with more greater problems, yesterday was an election in the United States, not the federal election. There was like state house in my state, and there was 2 seats, New Jersey and Virginia, that were the governors were up for grabs. And okay. And in New York, there's a Democrat named Zoran Mandami, and he's a Democrat socialist, and he's pretty far left, and he's like the populist left version of a Trump-like as far as the populist fervor pushing him in. So Trump acknowledges that the Republicans' election defeat, and this is important. I'll get to why this is important. He explained it bluntly. I wasn't on the ballot and shut down. Okay, so that Trump wasn't on the ballot and shut down were the 2 reasons that Republicans lost the elections tonight, according to pollsters. Trump is out there saying. Okay, in Virginia, Spanberger defeated Winsome Earl Sears. I've heard Winsome Sears talk at my school. We're alum of the same university. Okay, if you just look at New York, where Mandami won 50-something% of the vote. Let's see, here we are. Mandami won 50.4% of the vote, so he won a majority right away. Cuomo, who's a disgraced former governor, he had 41%. The Republican got 7%. And if you look here, this is most of the 4 of the 5 boroughs. This is Manhattan, and then the other 4 boroughs: the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens, and Brooklyn, and then Staten Island. I grew up right here, by the way, real close to New York City. Anyway. Yeah, so we'll see what comes of that. No, so there's some commentary about this that's useful. Adams won New York City in 2021. That's the former governor from New York, with 66% compared to Mandami's 50%. So talk of a mandate or a model for Democrats elsewhere is dangerously delusional, says Gary Kasparov. But if he does what he says he's going to do, it's going to be talking points for Republicans all day long. Nevertheless, the election was an indication of the mood of the country, and the mood is not pro-Trump. Now, go back 1 year, and you will see that the mood was very pro-Trump in the sense that a lot of things flipped for Trump that if you were watching CNN, you wouldn't have thought. You would have been caught off guard and thought, how did that happen? If you were watching Fox News last night, or up through last night, before the election last night, you would have thought, certainly Republicans are on the ascendancy. Well, that's not exactly the picture. Look at this. Every single county in Virginia shifted blueward last night. New Jersey and Virginia were the 2 governor seats. Every single county flipped more blue than even if they won, even if Earl Sears won, it still was more blue than in the previous election. Now, that's not uncommon, but it tells you about the mood of the country, and that mood of the country, I think what you're going to find is that the next election, next year, the House will flip blue. So I think Trump has about a year to be doing what Trump does with the enjoying having the House and Senate, and then you'll have mixed government again. And mixed government is generally a good thing in the sense that you don't overreach. Otherwise, your tendency is just to overreach. Okay. What else is going on? Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, today at the direction of President Trump, the Department of War carried out a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated as a designated T organization. Okay, this is the 16th one. 16th, and I'm not going to show you the explosion, but that's the aftermath, and here's the before. And so, yeah, 16th strike, and something's about to pop off with Venezuela, it looks like. This was a video in Venezuela. Let me show you this. The Russian backing of their efforts, by all means of Putin's incompetence, are on display in Venezuela as the Maduro crews show off their awesome new fake weapons that will totally fool the Americans as long as the videos never leak on the internet. So here's fake weapons to kind of, to target things that aren't actual weapons. And so but they're put this on the internet. I don't understand why they did that, but okay. That one seems pretty obvious to me, but who am I to say? Okay. Just a couple more things. No more excuses. Ukraine's army is full of neo-Nazis, says RT. Zelensky, as you know, visited near the front yesterday, handing out awards. Zelensky's official page just posted him standing beside a banner featuring SS lightning bolts and shaking hands with soldiers whose uniforms display clear SS insignia. But, it's on X, and you can just ask X, ask here, is this SS insignia? Okay, is this SS insignia? Just ask on Grok, and it will tell you. The question seems to be asking if something is SS insignia, and then it thinks for a little bit, and it'll tell you what it actually found. And what do you think it actually found? It's not that it's SS. No, the symbolism shown in the video from RT Post is not an official SS insignia. That's the Nazis. It's the Wolfstangel emblem adopted by Ukraine's Azov Brigade, which is a stylized combination of the letters I for idea and N for nation, representing the Ukrainian nationalist concept of national idea. This design has pre-Nazi historical roots in medieval heraldry and was used by anti-Soviet Ukrainian groups in the 20th century. However, the Wolfenstengel shape, a hooked or angular rune-like form, visually resembles a symbol used by Nazi SS, and so that's why they're making this kind of claim. The RT Post specifically mislabels it as SS lightning bolts, which refer to the double sig runes that were used as a standard SS collar patch, not the Wolfstangel. Okay. So there you are. I mean, Grok is telling you what it is, but that doesn't mean it won't spread and people will just repost and repost. Last little bit, hundreds of Ukrainian children have been killed. Russia must be held accountable, says Yermak. Hundreds of Ukrainian children have been killed in the war. According to official data, 661 children have died. More than 2,200 have been injured. Thousands more have been forcibly taken to Russia and the occupied territories where they're stripped of their Ukrainian identity. 1,744 children have been returned. So there's still, 20,000 of them still abducted that we know of by name, and probably more like 35,000 abducted. And then there are those in the occupied territories, like some millions in the occupied territories that are being kind of brainwashed by the Russians. All right, that's where we are. Let's update Jake Bro's campaign. This morning when I looked at it at like 9 a.m., it was 504,680. And if we update it now, we are at 558,751. That's not bad for 2 days worth of work. All right, my friends, if you want to give to that campaign, the link will be below. Thank you for caring about these kind of things. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. Shout out to John Mountain, a graduate student, Mountain, a graduate student, a YouTube member. Thank you, John, for your support. Thank the rest of you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.